Hi, good afternoon. I've been given about, I think, half an hour to talk about lean and efficient marketing for startups. I think probably a better way to use the time would be maybe to spend 10-15 minutes talking. So we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A. I'm happy to answer questions. So please line up your questions and we'll just take them and spend as much time on that, because that should be a lot more fun, because everything I say will sound like theory. So it might make a lot more sense to do that. My positions on startup marketing costs and expenses have been reasonably consistent now for the 15 years that I've been investing as an investor, and maybe even for the 5-10 years before that that I've been spending on the digital side of the fence when I started in 93, I think, 94. I think before getting into all of that, I really want to start with a fundamental belief that we have at Seedfund and elsewhere, that business is very, very different in this decade than it was 2 decades ago, and business success is very different in this decade than it was 2 decades ago. A lot of what I said may sound like repeats to you, but I'll say it again because to me it just comes from a very fundamental basic principle. If you look at traditional industries, 20th century industries like pharmaceuticals, automobiles, automobile ancillaries, chewing gums, chocolates, apparel, you look at all the industries that started back then. Typically, you have many players making lots of money in all those industries, and the leading company may have a 21% market share, like in cars, Toyota, 20% Volkswagen, 18% General Motors, Ford, blah, 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 all the way coming down. Ditto with pharmaceuticals. So you have a particular kind of market share way it falls, which is the biggest companies 10, 15, 20%, maybe it gradually declines down. But what's happened in the last 10 years is a sea change in any kind of market share among 21st century companies, especially companies that are somehow influenced by the digital realm. It has become an unforgiving place. It has become a place which is basically winner takes all. Imagine Google, with zero ad spend or whatever you want to say, runs a $50 billion business with 90% global market share. Microsoft, with $120 billion of market cap, $6 billion of investment into search, has managed a 6% market share. And there's note number 3. And that was 6% it got by basically bribing Yahoo to give up its own search effort and put Microsoft out there. In a similar business, Facebook rules social networking, where Google, with a huge amount of money and expertise, hasn't been really able to make a huge dent. Twitter rules microblogging. No advertising, extraordinary global usage, 400 million users, no number 2 even in sight. And you will see this in digital sector after digital sector after digital sector, which is why I believe even, the efforts of Indian companies in broad-based e-commerce at some point will come a cropper, because I believe at some point Amazon will win. For lots of times, I've seen people come to me with plans, saying, I want to be the YouTube of India. I want to be the Google of India. I want to be the Amazon of India. I want to be the Twitter of India. I want to be the Facebook of India. I want to be the Birchbox of India. I want to be the XYZ of India. And unlike China, where there's regulatory walls, language walls, political walls, where you do have a Google of China which is not Google, and you do have all of those of China which are not, Facebook and Birchbox, etc. In India, I believe the Google of India is Google, the Facebook of India is Facebook, the Amazon of India is Amazon, the Birchbox of India at one point will be Birchbox, the eBay of India is eBay, the Twitter of India is Twitter. Right? It's a crazy thing, unless you're very lucky or able to build a bazi and maybe make a few bucks while you sell it to eBay, because eventually eBay will do that business. If you try to first of all do a copy-paste company, you're not going to do very well. We all know that. So doing the X of India is not really a good strategy at all. This flies in the face of Indian business. Indian business in the last 60 years has always been doing the X of something else. We will do the Honda of India, and hence we'll set up Maruti. Everything was, we'll get a license from somebody else and we'll learn the license out here. For us, industry in the last 50, 60 years has been largely about copying or copy pasting. In this digital world, that's really, really difficult. So given that, it's not necessarily bad news. What it means is that stop copying, but there's enough opportunity for you to do something different. Find that original problem, find a way to solve the problem. So given the fact that your dominance is at stake, either you're number one or you're nothing. While you'd be very, very happy to run a number 3 pharma company, you'd be extraordinarily happy to run a number 5 automotive company. You're going to be very unhappy even running a number 2 search company. You're going to be very unhappy running a number 2 social network. You're going to be very so in the digital side, it's pretty much 80%, 8%, 0.8%. That's how it goes. Instead of 20, 19, 18. Right? And you will see more and more of this kind of behavior in pretty much everything that you touch. With that as a background, when we talk to entrepreneurs, we say, look, you have a patli gali, you have one narrow path that you have to success. And that success has to create dominance in what you're doing, absolute market dominance. You have to be that 80% leader, because if you're not that 80% leader, you're an also ran. You fail. Even if you land up at number 2 in the market with 8%, you're failed. Because you really have very low market cap, market value. Who cares about Bing? Even after $6 billion of investments, who cares about it? Nobody. Right? So in this world, how do you market? The stakes are that much higher. The stakes are that much higher. If there's any good guide, you should also look at all these companies we talked about and simply realize one thing, whether it's a Birchbox we're talking about, or whether it's a Google, whether it's an Amazon, whether it's a eBay, whether it's a Facebook, Twitter, any of these companies that we talked about, one of the things which are extraordinarily common to all of these is they never spent money on advertising, ever. So to me, it almost becomes an axiom. If you go and spend money on retail, television, advertising, you will die. Right? Unless you have some guy like, I think Muruga came earlier and said he spent 12 crores of Alok's money doing a TV campaign. It's okay. If somebody is good enough to give you 12 crores to burn, I would rather put my money in the TV channel that you're giving the money to. Why pass it through the company and give it to the TV channel? Might as well invest where the money is going to end up. Yeah. So in this world, as a startup, if you're aiming for dominance, you have a second factor, which is the power of history seems to suggest that those who spend less become bigger. It's not just out here. You'll see that even in fashion, the world's biggest apparel brand is Zara. $18 billion in sales. Zara doesn't advertise. Okay? You can imagine women's fashion, big fat Vogue magazines go out there feeding the women's fashion advertising industry, and Zara says, forget it, I'm not going to be there. So coming to the gist of it, so why does a Zara succeed? Why does a Facebook succeed? Why does a Google succeed? It's not because they were first. Facebook wasn't first. Orkut was there before it. Google wasn't first. Overture was there before it. In each of these cases, their biggest marketing innovation was to build a product that got talked about. It's almost as a definition. We give our entrepreneurs a brief saying, you want advertising, here's what we'll ask you to do. Build something in the product that gets the product talked about. What really got Facebook talked about, very simply, was the fact that Orkut and MySpace, before it, were not safe for women. Because anybody would come with a fake profile and do anything and hit on you. Well, what Facebook insisted on is that we want your real name, we want a real picture, we want a real address, and others we're not letting you in. So it became a safe place for women to come in, and because women came in, men came in. It was as simple as that, as simple a tiny insight as that. What did Google do that Overture did not do? Overture also basically said, there are people who are willing to pay for a placement, I'm going to place them up. Google said, you know what, I'm going to place them on the side, and I'm going to have my own reputation score called the PageRank to rate sites. So people said, you know what, Overture gives me shit results, Google gives me good results. That's all, I'm going there. One little thing, the advertising campaign was in the product design. And you will see that of every single thing, whether it is Twitter or Facebook or Birchbox, XYZ, you look at any leader in a category, the advertising campaign is inside the product. So the first thing we talk with entrepreneurs is that when they come to us with a brief saying we need more marketing dollars, we say, what's wrong with the product? Can we fix the product? And I'll give you one or two real examples of that. So we invested in a company called Carvalho in 2006. And by 2007, in those days, basically we wanted to be a used car portal. And we were charging people, and we were making a little bit of money, but it was slow growth. So I remember Mohit coming to the board meeting and saying, we really need an ad campaign because we want to really increase people traffic to the site. So our question was, why aren't people coming to the site? Well, we figured that nobody was talking about the site. We said, the challenge we gave back is, go back, take that money, put it in the product, and tell me what you can come back with on the product that will make the product talked about. So they spent some money and came back with a really good insight saying, the problem in the used car space is that nobody actually knows what a car is worth. You know, you go, your mechanic says something, somebody else says something, you don't know if you got a good deal, whatever, right? There's buyers and sellers, but nobody knows what this is. So they went through their entire data and said, what we're going to do is a used car pricing guide. We'll just simply look at the last 200,000 transactions, bids and asks and price, and we will start estimating based on car, age, mileage, you know, whether it's a Thane RTO or Andheri RTO or whatever, what the price range should be. We said, do that. They started with the approximations. Within 2 months of the launch of that, launch in the sense it was never advertised, we just put up there saying, how much is a used car worth? The traffic went up 6 times. 6 times. Right? And then we found the secret. Every time we wanted to increase traffic, we figured out we needed to innovate the product and create something remark-worthy. So before I get into the entire marketing spend, I want to really come back and re-emphasize that the most powerful marketing is inside the product. What is it you can do within the product to get insane consumer delight and insane consumer referrals? Consumers telling each other, "Arey, car wale pe used car pricing guide pe ye daam hai, jaake check karo." The dealers were checking it, everybody was checking it left, right and center. What is it you can do to get that level of word of mouth? When you get that, you will win. Another example out here was Redbus, another company that we also invested in 2006. And we've been fortunate that we exited both of these companies and all of them made out very well. I think we also made out well in these. So Funny would come to us every year. It became a joke. Every year he'd come and ask for a marketing budget. As a board, we'd cut it to 0 and say, go back and build a better product. Till it became a joke. He'd come and say, yes, marketing budget, I want 5 crores, I'm making it 0 in front of you before I ask for it. It became that kind of a joke, right? And all we kind of try to figure out is, what is it that we can do in the product to get the product better talked about? So in Funny's case, it was very straightforward. We had invested in Redbus. Everybody else came and invested in the number 2, number 3, number 4 bus companies after that. And all we said is, how do we get the consumers to talk about us? And we did 2 or 3 things. One, we said, let's talk to the operators and make sure we get the operators on our side. Second, consumers know that they have a seat when they get onto an airplane. They know they have a seat number when they get onto a train. They don't know they have a seat number when they get onto a bus. So we just figured, what are the best seats on the bus? It's 14 ABCD, it's the one between the wheels, right? So we talk to operators and say, give us 2 seats. We'll sell those 2 seats. And we tell customers, you got seat 14A. Actually, we had only 14A and 14B to sell. We'd sell them one and say, you have 1 seat left, somebody else would down and bite only 1 seat left. We created, virtual scarcity. As a result of that, people simply said, look, I got a seat number in the bus, can you believe it? It's like getting a seat number in an auto rickshaw. You'd love it, but it simply doesn't exist. So they solved the problem, got word of mouth, and again, both of these companies, Carvale and Redbus, landed up with 80% plus market shares in the face of much better funded competition. In fact, today Redbus does more transactions than Make My Trip. And you've seen Make My Trip advertising for 12 years. Until a month ago, Redbus never hit the big screen. Okay, so I will say 90-95% of your story is in zero budget marketing. No marketing expense whatsoever, but in fixing the product in a way that generates extraordinary word of mouth. Fixing the service. I mean, the reason for Amazon's success is they just basically said, we're going to get customer service that is talked about. Why is that not a differentiator in India in the e-commerce space? We can talk about it because everybody offers the same high level of customer service. Or the same low level of customer service, whichever way you want to put it. Right? So it's very hard to build differential out there. So given that, and let's say that you've done this, ideally, what do you need to start with? Let's say you've built it. The first thing we say is find one person. How do you get 10,000 customers? Well, to get 10,000 customers, you want 5,000 customers who can talk to 2 people. To get 5,000 customers, you need 2,500 customers who can talk to 2 people each. And you work it all the way down, finally you need 1 customer who can talk to 2 people. Can you find 1 customer? Go talk to your neighbor, to your father, your mother, your brother, somebody, get 1 person to buy it. Everything starts with 1 customer. So I don't need to do a big TV campaign to get 1 customer. I can figure out where it is and sell that guy. But delight him so he talks to 2 people, encourage him to talk. Yeah. So a lot of what we've talked about is how can you talk to your customers and how could you get them to talk? How can you incentivize them to talk? In fact, earlier there was somebody presenting, one of the companies that was presenting was talking about rewards for usage. So we founded a company that basically rewards customers for talking about your product to others. So the interesting thing is we tried that actually on Redbus. So We tend to eat a lot of our own dog food within Seedfund. And really interestingly, we were getting 4 referrals every second. That means 1 referral every quarter of a second when we ran that. All we asked customers to say, do you want to recommend this? We were not giving them anything. Oh, sorry, we were giving them 5 rupees off or 10 rupees off, something. And basically they recommended us. Okay. So I talked about the importance of product. I talked about the importance of referrals. I think after you do this, then your 95 plus 3, 98% of your marketing should be solved there. You're probably left with 2-3% of your marketing task. Here, if anything, I'll probably try to rate now marketing communications vehicles. I would believe, once upon a time I believed that SEO was the most powerful vehicle. Today I probably stand corrected. I'll probably say Twitter is the most powerful vehicle around. Simply because Twitter doesn't restrict your speech. If you have 500 friends and you say something on Facebook, only 5 will get to see it because Facebook constricts your visibility because it's trying to upsell you promotional visibility. Facebook average visibility is 1% of posts, 1% of your friend base, or 0.5%. So if you have 500 friends, 5 people will see it. But Twitter has no such restrictions. You put it out there, every one of your 500, 300, 200, 100 friends. You may have fewer friends and followers on Twitter, but your reach will be 100% versus having more followers on Facebook where your reach is 1% or 0.5%. So first I rate Twitter, put something out there. Again on Twitter, please understand, what is it that you're going to say? If you go and say, we hereby announce the launch of XYZ, guess what, you're dead because you have not given me something that I'd like to share. You have to stop thinking like an advertising person and start thinking like a storyteller. How many of you are on Twitter or on Facebook? All of you? How many of you have ever shared an ad? You don't share ads. We don't like to share ads because we don't like to be seen as the kind of people who share ads. We don't like to share ads. Sharing is the currency of this new economy. So why are we writing ads? Why can't you give me a message that is useful instead, where I want to willingly share that message with my fans and followers because it is useful? What is it that you can tell me that is useful and interesting? Instead of saying, I am hereby launching this product, blah, 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 which, is some optimization, blah, blah, blah for travel. Why can't I come back and say, I can save you 500 rupees on the next flight? Do you want to tell this to your friends? Everybody wants to share it with their friends. So stop thinking about it from the point of view of what I want to say. Stop even thinking about it from the point of view of what you want to listen to, but think about it from the point of view of what will you want to share? What will you be willing to tell your friends? What will you be willing to put a forward on? And these things are things in some cases you can predict, in some cases you can't predict. But what really gets shared is actually not a moderate opinion. Often it's a very different opinion. Often it's an extreme opinion. Often it's a minority opinion. Again, it's important to stand out. If you go up there and say the sky is blue, it's unlikely that people are going to share it. If you go up there and take a picture of a beautiful sunset and say the sky is red, it's likely to be shared because it's different, it stands out, and the person who's sharing it wants to be seen as somebody who shares unique and different information. So that's the first point, Twitter. Following Twitter, I'd probably say SEO, which is just make sure that somebody hears of you, that you can be found. After that, I'd probably say YouTube. And this is where I see still enormous, huge, untapped opportunities. Right? Let's say you built software for the Android phone that helps you increase your battery life by 10%, 15%, whatever. Right? What would I do? Rather than do a big ad, maybe I'll just do videos about every phone in town, just basically, and I would do a video in Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or Gujarati or Marathi, because there is no such video on these topics, simply saying how to increase the battery life on your phone. And I'd shoot the video for 2,000 rupees or 500 rupees, even with my phone or with a low-end camera. I'd put it up on YouTube, and people would, and Facebook, people would share it because it's useful. Don't you want to tell your friends, hey, you can increase the life of your phone? So move from trying to be communicative to trying to be useful. When you're being useful, you start getting shared. You start getting shared, that is your reach. That's how your reach grows. I didn't know very much about this myself till I figured it out that when I started tweeting and I started Facebooking. And with I promise you, I've not bought a single fan in my life. I landed up with some 60,000 followers on Twitter, some 30,000 plus on Facebook, 15,000 on LinkedIn, 15,000 on Google Plus, etc. Till I figured I had more circulation in business world, business today. Any business circulation other than India Today, I probably have more circulation than any English magazine. And so can you. All I figured is what works is either when I'm being opinionated, or I'm being informative, or I'm being entertaining, or two of these three, or one of these three, all three of these three. If you're not being informative, and not being opinionated, and not being entertaining, it's going to die. Nobody's going to forward it, nobody's going to share it. So look at yourself and say, what is it I'm doing that can become remark-worthy? What in my behavior is remark-worthy? So we talked about Twitter, then we talked about SEO. Then we talked about YouTube. I think there's an enormous space out there for stuff, videos that are useful to people. For example, let's look at a simple thing. You are a mortgage loan, home loan vendor, or you're a home loan arbitrator. I mean, can't you come and tell me in Hindi, or in Tamil, or in Gujarati, or in Marathi, how do I pick a home loan? What does tenure mean? What does principal mean? What does interest mean? Give me a calculator that works. Won't I love it? Won't I share it? Right? Maybe even do it in English. Right? Allow me to play with it. Isn't that far more useful than trying to do an ad and having Priyanka Chopra on an ad? Apart from paying a few crores of rupees, you're not going to really get anything out of it. So coming from there, so Twitter, SEO, YouTube, I'd probably say, okay, after that I'd put Facebook. Right? Again, remember on Facebook, there's a huge Facebook choke. Your organic visibility is going to be 0.5% to 1%. Right? So you have to figure out what kind of content flies. Interestingly for me, in the last 2-3 months, I wrote something I was upset one day about what the media was writing about Jia Khan and Suraj Pancholi, and I just wrote something, I don't know either person. And that landed up with some 300,000 views. I wrote something else on Arindam Chaudhary, landed with 150,000 views. Right? I didn't write it, I have no business connection with either. I have no investments in either such business. It was just a matter of opinion. I think people may not agree with your opinion, but they respect your opinion. If you don't have an opinion, that's the problem. It's better to have an opinion and better to have a sharp opinion than to have no opinion at all. It's better to stand out than to be sitting. Have an opinion in whatever you do. And after that comes SEM and so on and so forth, which is really buying ads on Google. Then comes display, and then much later comes television. Yeah? So this is really a very broad, open primer that I can think about in terms of how we work with the startups that we have in terms of getting dominance. We've done that. Whether it's My Dentist, we're at 56 dental clinics, and you will still not see any large print or television or radio campaign. Or whether it's Redbus, or it's Carvale, or it's EduSports, or it's Agency FAQs. These are all sites and businesses that have been built into profitable, viable, large, exitable businesses. Without really spending a huge amount of money on advertising. We really put our money where our mouth is. We'd rather invest in a product than invest in a television channel that you're going to pay your money to. I realize that this sounds odd coming from an advertising guy. I spent most of my life in advertising, but I understand. Once you become big, if you're a startup, all of this applies to you. Once you're 6, 7, 8 years old, then it becomes efficient for you to go on television because your cost per reaching 1,000 is much more efficient at that point, 6, 7, 8 years down the road. Nike did not advertise for the first 6, 7, 8 years. McDonald's did not advertise for the first 15 years. It's only after a certain amount of time that you should even look at those kinds of media sources. By doing it early, you're not getting a boost up, you're killing yourself.
Very consumer usage examples, like bus tickets and so on. I am in the B2B space selling, software solutions. Could you give us some examples, some insights along the same line?
Actually, nothing changes in the business-to-business space. People think that the mechanics of B2B and B2C are very different. Actually, not. There's a human being at both sides. And us human beings behave the same way. While you might, on the consumer space, on the side, you might really like somebody who's entertaining and funny. On the business space, on the business side, you again like somebody who is thoughtful and who's a guru and who's an expert in something. So my question to you is, can you be a thought leader? Again, I'll use personal experience. So one of my industry companies is a company called Pinstorm, which has somehow grown over 9 years into being a reasonable sized digital marketing company. We've never sponsored anything. We've really never done anything. We've never had parties. I have never even taken a client out for a drink in my life. All we've done is tried to appear to be a thought leader by publishing research, publishing findings, and publishing our opinions and speaking about them widely. At some point, somebody out there says, who seems to know something about this? Let's call that person, you guys talk to us. So you get called to the table. So my answer to you would be, what is it that you can do in your niche to appear to be the thought leader? Maybe it's a paper you publish. Maybe it's a conference you speak at. And I can tell you, really, some of the best value for money marketing is for you to be standing here and talking to this audience. Right? You may not get paid for it. Ben, you can pay me, I'm happy to accept checks. Right? But finally, at some point, I have the opportunity to talk to you and maybe appear wise and maybe appear stupid, that's up to you. But this Go to conferences, get an opportunity to speak, write papers, get an opportunity to be quoted, right? That's your way to getting talked about and being remark-worthy in your business. Yeah? Sir? Any more questions in the meanwhile? 3? Anybody else? No. 4.
I think that was an excellent communication on marketing. At the same time, it can even demoralize many people.
Be more?
Demoralize many people.
Demoralize?
Yeah.
Are you all demoralized? I think you are. Look at that. You may be right.
Because everybody cannot be as tall as Google or as tall as any of the brands.
So they also started in a small garage. So are you starting?
With all said and done, every product, every man has his own DNA. It all cannot be saved.
It's okay.
The question of marketing comes when a man who is X centimeter tall wants to reach to 4X centimeter. The 4X centimeter man anyhow will naturally, with all what you said as a communication among peers, friends will go through. How this X height man ever can either become 2X or 3X without spending in a marketing?
I would not say anything different. I think I would say exactly the same thing. These are things that in the case of my own investee companies, whether it was a Geodesic, whether it's a WebDunia, whether it's a EBS, and I've done maybe 35, 40 companies, maybe 14, 15 on my own and 25, 30 through Seedfund. It's exactly been the case with every one of these companies. How did Redbreast go to 800 crores in revenues without any advertising? There was no magic, sir. It was just hard work. Nobody is a genius. Nobody has 150 IQ there. But certainly at Seedfund, nobody has any 150 IQ.
But it would have missed 8,000 crore.
Sorry?
800 crore reaching might have missed 8,000 crore.
No, it will get there. Why do you worry about that? Right?
But then the investors are not willing to wait.
But it doesn't matter. They've got all the money. They're profitable. They became profitable when they only did a 200 crore number. They've been profitable for 2.5 years. Example after example after example. And this is how regular brands have been built. At Nike, what Phil Knight did, the guy who founded Nike, was he figured that he needed to get talked about. The only way he felt he could get talked about was that people said, what is that runner using to win races? So he'd go to and he said, all the big runners, I can't afford them. He'd go to the up-and-coming runners and say, try my shoe. And he had made his sole out of a waffle iron. They tried, they ran a little faster, they talked about it, they won races. His entire marketing budget consisted of giving shoes to runners at colleges for 2.5 years. And slowly bigger and bigger colleges started using his shoes, slowly he started charging. And finally in the end, that's still his business. He gives shoes to athletes for free so that he can charge us non-athletes for the pleasure of using the shoes used by athletes. It's exactly the same thing that Nike has been doing for 25, 30 years. Right? They just found one strategy. How do I get into the heart of the consumer and how do I get really credible and believed? That 1x, 2x will happen. Today we have this incredible medium of digital which has 155 million users. To put that in perspective, there's only 110 million TV sets in India. Google has 130 million monthly reach. Times of India has only 7 million monthly reach. Right? Facebook has a 75 million monthly reach. YouTube has a 50 million monthly reach. Star Plus has only 35 million monthly reach. Every digital property is much larger than any offline property today. So why do you care about offline properties? Unless you're in specialized niches, you want to reach finance minister, you want to reach prime minister, you want to reach some CEO, CXO who may not be on the internet, then maybe you choose an Economic Times or you choose some very narrow niche publication. But for most of our purposes, we don't need all that. The other thing is that when you do something, whatever you do in advertising, the first rule of advertising is you must get noticed. How many of us read the papers today? Yeah? What ads do you remember from today's paper? Nothing. Because the ads are forgettable. If you are going to spend money on advertising, make sure it is visible, remembered, shock people, outrage people, get caught. Get noticed. The first job of an ad is to be noticed. If you're not noticed, it doesn't matter what you've written, you're forgotten. If everybody's doing squares, do circle. If everybody's saying good things, say bad things. If everybody's saying bad things, say good things. When somebody's zigging, zag. Be noticed in whatever you do. Even if you must do advertising, ideally you shouldn't. Even if you must do advertising, make sure you're noticed. Yeah? The gentleman there.
Hi, Mahesh. Samir
Hi.
Patil from
Hi.
Travel. I'm planning to launch a weekend travel site, building the prototype. Now, for a business like that or an online commerce, between SEO, SMM, and social media, Google marketing, Google Ads, and SEO, and social media marketing, how would you suggest a split for a startup?
So I can't do a generic answer. I'll give you an interesting thing. So one of our other startups is a women's fashion brand called Done by None. And here's what they actually did. I was very, very clever of them. I really hats off to them. They first of all figured their target audience was a 24-year-old girl. And we spent a lot of time on the brand together. I said, no, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. We finally, literally, as we said, you interrogate the brand till it confesses. Finally, we figured the reason we picked that brand was this girl. She's kind of lived with her parents till she was going through school. She's gone through college, but now she's gotten her first job. She's left home. She's gotten money, so she can buy what she wants. So we said the theme that we're going to now latch onto is this is the first freedom for this girl in buying her clothes. So the clothes have been designed in a way, done by None, which are really what a girl says, I'm free to wear this for the first time. It's not a boring salwar kameez. It's not what mama wants. It's what I want. It's not sexy and whatever. It's basically something that I love. It makes me look good. It makes me feel good. Right? So that's the brand. Then we figured, how do we get this girl? So all we said was, this girl, we figured there's something about this girl's behavior. She's very social. She has others like her who may all come from Ghaziabad, but who may all be in Gurgaon and who all live this incredible life. But when they go to Ghaziabad, maybe they wear a ghungat. But when they're out there in Gurgaon, they're having fun. So how do we spread? We said we have to spread through this girl and her network. So what did we do? We did a very little thing. We basically did extra micro targeting on Facebook, saying I want girls in Gurgaon, 22 to 26 years old, and I want to talk to these girls, and once they come to me, I want to talk to their friends. So we started out with Gurgaon and friends, then went to Delhi and their friends, and went to Noida and their friends, and we've simply grown to a point where we're doing about 7-8 crores in revenues a year. Again, on virtually completely zero offline advertising. Even today, 80-85% of the visits come from organic processes. Even the 20% is aimed at somebody's friends. Why is this relevant to you? If you have a weekend getaway site, it's really something that you might want couples and their friends, their families to go out to. So how can you talk to somebody, then talk to their friends, and talk to their friends' friends, and talk to their friend circles, or be in a group, or, so you can do that kind of targeting today on Facebook. Reach Mahesh, also advertise to Mahesh's friends, and advertise to Mahesh's friends who are this particular age, in this particular city, blah, blah, blah. Right? So I would suggest that you do this entire thing, which is really family marketing. Find families, talk to them, inspire them to share with other families, inspire them to go with other families, have them all come back, write reviews, then have, just work from family to family to family, work in those circles. You'll probably find that, my sense is that might be effective. Yeah? Sir? Actually, the light should be on you guys, the audience, not on me. I'm not sure why it's on me.
Hello, my name is Akash. So the offering I'm trying to create is kind of boring. It's for inventors so that they can develop better inventions.
So is that boring? If you find it boring?
Well, I'm comparing it with Dropbox and the kind of virality that Dropbox had.
But what is Dropbox? Dropbox is just basically a hard drive.
Yeah.
And the cloud. How is that exciting?
But it's easy to share and something like that.
It's okay. I mean, if you start off by the thing saying I'm boring, then
you're right. Sorry.
Imagine you go on Muruga's Bharat Matrimony and say I'm boring. Let's see how many brides you get here. You have to first stop believing that you're boring.
Yes. So
nobody is boring.
So the
you
three
have to find
things
what about you is interesting. Sorry. Yeah.
The three things you said: opinionated, entertaining, and informative. Is there any place where you can be coached into creating that kind of content? Because I can be informative, but the other two I see I'm lacking oftentimes in my communication.
I don't know. It's like you're saying, can I be coached into having a better personality? Maybe, but more importantly, just look at it yourself and say, I'm going to write this update on Twitter. How many of my friends will actually share it? Right? How will I rewrite it to make it even more share-worthy? How can I put a wink or a smile or some humor in it to make it shared? And then, and the really nice thing about social media is really your wit, your IQ, whatever, gets you much further than anybody with money. You can really, this is where you can outsmart without outspending. So figure out what it is. How inventors can share. That's so cool, right? People who want to be inventors, how do you find them? How can you do this entire series about, how this was invented or the story behind that invention? Just keep saying you're the champion when it comes to inventors, you're the thought leader when it comes to inventors. Talk about how inventions were made, how the zipper was invented by Judson Rednick or whoever it was, and little interesting inventions, right? And people can just follow you saying this is the coolest guy when it comes to inventions. It doesn't take any money. It takes no money to do any of this. And slowly the inventors will hear about it. They'll come and stick to you because they want to be part of a community that celebrates inventors. Their friends will come, other inventors. And guess what? Before you know it, if you do this right, you will end up with the market. If you do this wrong, you can just start all over again because you have not lost anything. Nothing lost. You spent no money. You can keep fine-tuning. Learn yourself. Because what you learn that works for you is not likely to work for me. I'm just trying to hence give general principles. Because the way you can be interesting, informative, educational, exciting in your field is probably likely different from how I'd do it in my field. I hope that helps. More questions? What's like 5? Then the lady 6 and you 7. Yeah. And we'll stop at that. Sorry. So Mr. Muscle is here, the big man saying get off stage. So let's keep it quick.
Hi, I'm Anirudh from Delhi. I would just like to understand, since you said we need to be informative, entertaining, and opinionated, and we need to do product innovation, right? So, as an entrepreneur, as a lead thinker, we do product innovation in our enterprise. What time frame do you think? Because I, as an entrepreneur, would think, wow, what an innovation! It should work like anything. When should I say and tell myself this is not going to work? I need to do a new innovation now.
It's a good thing. I mean, there are all calculations written about it. I once took a course on, the speed at which social networks propagate and when do you hit the tipping point. At some point, it's a mathematical question. But essentially, you should feel that if the momentum of discovery of your product is not increasing, if it's not going from 1 to 4 to 8 to 16, in any reasonable amount of time that you think is reasonable, you sit back and say, maybe I need a different story. You have to feel that momentum increasing 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. You have to start feeling that network and viral effect come into it, right? It may differ. If you're doing something deep inside an enterprise and your friend uses it, but 4 other people don't use it and don't use it for a month, something's gone wrong. But this guy uses it, but 2 days later 2 other guys are using it, 1 week later 4 other guys are using it, then maybe you're on the right track. You can sense it yourself, right? I don't have a standard answer to give you, but all you have to look for is increasing virality.
Basically, a geometric progression as to what we look for.
Geometric, whichever. I mean, I'm simplifying. It doesn't have to be geometric. It can be any kind of, But essentially, it could even grow at. It typically tends to grow at, the golden ratio 1.51 or whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, forget the maths. But you should just sense that it's not going linearly. It's going as a hockey stick.
Just one simple question as to what is the wheel between information overload and I'm not there enough?
What is the what between?
There's a thin wheel between, okay, I'm sharing it once a week or I'm sharing twice a day.
So it's a good question. Here's the thing. The fact is that if you're on Twitter, when you log in, depending on the number of people that you have, at some point, you're going to see a stream, right? And you come back half an hour, the stream is different. Now, nobody's on Twitter 24/7. So you've got to figure out what is, depending on the average number of people that your potential targets follow, what is the kind of frequency that you think you need to be in front of them with? The guy Kawasaki used to retweet twice, now he does 4 tweets of his. Every tweet he does 4 times. Simply because he's hitting different target audiences every time. Facebook is a little different. Facebook, even if you have 500 followers, you'll see 5 updates from 5 followers. If you're not in there, you're not going to be in there. So Facebook is a lot more about making sure the share happens, while Twitter is a lot more about making sure you do get the OTS, the opportunity to see. So maybe it doesn't matter. I sometimes tweet once a day, sometimes 6, 7 times a day. I would think 1 to 5, 6 is fine. Once you go beyond 5 or 6 times, maybe you're getting obnoxious. But it depends, it depends on your follower base. It depends how many of them are.
So there's no one set criteria?
Nothing yet. I'm loath to say there are any rules. Yeah, I don't think so. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
The next, the lady. Yes.
Hi. The 15 minutes that you have talked, I got a feeling that making a product stronger is advertising in itself, and you need not spend that much on advertising, let the product speak for itself. When is the time that you recommend that advertising is essential? When is it then you say that, okay, now spend?
I would probably say that you've already gotten as much as you can milk out of the online world virally and that's not growing geometrically anymore, that's slowing down. At some point you want to go beyond the online world, beyond these 155 million people, or beyond whatever slice of the 155 million people you want. Then you try different media, right? I would say, once it starts slowing down, you might say, okay, let me now try to find another base and make it go up from there. And that, it doesn't have to be television. You can do an event on ground and be noticed. Right? One of the favorite things I keep telling my entrepreneurs, you want to get noticed, all you have to do is go shoot the President of India. You'll be in every paper tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
You just shoot the President of India.
Yeah, okay.
Or maybe the Prime Minister, depending on who, right? You'll be in the papers tomorrow. So you can always be in the news. The thing to do is how to figure out how to be in the news ethically, relevant to your business, blah, 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 all of those things. Yeah.
Sorry, just to repeat it, you said that n number of times you told Redbus cross it and make it 0, right?
Yeah.
So what is the time that you would have said, yes, go ahead and advertise?
So when, about 1 month ago, when they basically said, Mahesh, they came shouting and said, we have 50 crores in the bank. Would you please let us advertise? We have made so much money. I said, acha, chalo yaar. So even then we said, okay, 5 crores, we'll put 5 crores in. We'll see what happens, right? So it was just one of those things where it was a big joke. So I mean, it's so much fun to have a board meeting with the guys where they come in and say, look, we've earned so much money, thoda to kharch karne do yaar, why? So we said, okay, let's give it a shot, let's try it. But actually what happened was the cost per acquisition went up. So Redbus, a bus ticket is 500 rupees, you make 50 rupees on a bus ticket. And so their average cost of acquisition was about 8-9 rupees for an e-commerce site. Most sites have 1,000 rupees CPA. These guys are less than 10 rupees CPA for an e-commerce site. So we really carefully crafted that. So this blew it out of the water, but that's okay. I mean, I think they deserved it. They wanted a little hurrah. And it's also an experiment. Everything was measured at the end of it. Yeah. There was a... You? Your last question. Yeah.
What is your view on Facebook advertising?
What's my view on Facebook advertising? So here's my sense, right? We all got onto Facebook to figure out what our friends were saying. And everything was fine till about March last year. Because if I had 100 friends, I could see what 80 were saying. Then the peak visibility was about 80% of your friend base. Then Facebook went public. It got shafted. They had no revenues. So Wall Street sat on them like a ton of bricks and said, Nikalo, revenue, Nikalo. So they went and took the 80% virality, took it to 20%, then 16%, then 12%, then 9% or 8%, right? So essentially now I don't see what my friends are saying anymore. The first thing I see is a sponsored post. There's an upside and downside. So I made some money. Just yesterday I was looking at some data on Facebook. Their market share has declined from 95% 2.5 years ago to 75% today. They've lost 20% market share in India. In the US they've lost even more market share. Right? So the company has taken its own calls, just taken the call of earning short-term money over whatever long-term, whatever it is they've set out to do. That's okay, that's the way of the world. I mean, all social networks kind of have a curve where they go up, early adopters use it, they go up and they come down. That's what Orkut did, Facebook did, MySpace did. Somebody will come and replace them. Now, advertising, right? My sense is that it's not working for them. They're making money, but eventually it'll kill them. Because from a user's point of view, I don't want to see my timeline cluttered with ads. And I'm seeing that not just from me, but 16-year-olds are telling me that. 18-year-olds are telling me that, right? Because they just ignore it. And at some point, what are you using it for? I'll just use the inbox for communication. Because the damn updates are all ads. Those ads on the right-hand side did not work. So they're putting now promoted posts right in the middle. They're pinning the posts, right? So at some point they'll figure out, they're also... as a startup, should you? I don't think you should. Yeah. I mean, I think what you can do is you can use targeting. Find the target. If you can specifically fine-tune target and give them something that they love, then it's fine. That's what we did in Ramadan. But if I broadly say to all of India, go and say, I am now the greatest, it's like, nobody's going to give you any responsiveness. Right? But if you can create, again, viral ads. For example, the key test of your ad is even though you're paying for placement, can it be shared? And look at yourself, ask yourself, I will never share an ad. Then ask yourself, why will you not share your own ad? If you won't share your own ad, then you're doing the wrong ad. What kind of ad can you do about yourself that is share-worthy? Again, be useful. Don't communicate, just be useful. You can say this wonderful information was brought to you by brand X, by whatever trader, whatever your thing is, as opposed to, I am so great. If you give me something useful, signed by you, I will think you're so great. Brand X is so great is not the stimulus, it's a desired response. If Figure out what is the stimulus that will give you the response. Most people say, desired response is I'm so great, stimulus is I'm so great. No. Stimulus is I will help you, I will like you, I'll give you information, I'll give you gyan. Response is, man, he's so great. Yeah? Guys, thanks. I think I'm done with my time. I hope that was useful. Thank you.